Are those even legitimate? The question, tossed with the lazy contempt of a man who'd never had to earn his air, hung in the stillness of Courtroom 2. Judge Raymond Whitaker, all polished mahogany and cufflinks that screamed old money, tipped forward in his leather chair and let a thin smile crease his face. Below, a man stood at the defense table for a petty municipal infraction. Samuel Ortega, 82, shoulders square as a parade ground, hands resting lightly on the table as if it were the rail of a ship at sea. He wore a battered field jacket, sun-faded and honest, with a small spread of ribbons stitched above the pocket and a star-shaped medal, sky blue ribbon peeking out where the zipper wouldn't quite close. "It's a fix-it ticket, Your Honor," his public defender said, a young black woman named Dana Price whose file folder was more sticky notes than paper. Mr. Ortega replaced the taillight. "We brought the repair receipt." Whitaker didn't glance at her. His eyes never left the old man. "I'm only curious, Miss Price. Fascinated, even." He lifted a hand, turning his palm in a lazy circle as if inviting the entire gallery to share in a private joke. Quite the display for a fellow who couldn't be bothered to obey basic traffic laws. "Let me guess. Surplus store haul? Patchwork valor?" A few snickers prickled from the back benches. Most people stared at their laps, cheeks warmed by second-hand shame. Sam Ortega said nothing. His gaze, clear, gray, implacable, rested on the flag of the state of California stitched into a banner behind the bench. He wasn't angry. He wasn't even tight around the mouth. He was someplace steadier, an old country in his mind with hard borders and quiet rules. "I asked you a question," Whitaker said, voice rising an inch. He liked this part, the local theater of power, the way it could disassemble a person one comment at a time while still calling itself justice. "Did you buy those? Or do you rent by the hour?" "Your Honor," Dana said, taking a breath that was halfway to a tremor, "Mr. Ortega is a veteran. His record, respect, is earned," the judge snapped, his voice a walnut gavel all on its own. "And bedazzling yourself with tin doesn't earn it here. Last time, Mr. Ortega, where did you get the medals?" Sam's eyes drifted down from the flag to the man on the bench. When he spoke, the voice was quiet and rounded at the edges, river stones in the palm. "They were presented to me." The answer offered no traction. Whitaker's lips thinned. "Presented by whom? A costume shop manager?" He leaned back, an emperor in a robe he hadn't fought to wear. "You ran a stop sign. You were clocked 22 over the limit. You show up wearing a museum. Is that your shield? I have a particular distaste for people who play soldier in my courtroom. It insults the real ones." Dana felt the coil of heat crawl up her neck. She glanced at Sam's hands, speckled with age, still as folded maps. He didn't swallow. He didn't blink. He just stood there and let the man burn his matches. "Take the jacket off," Whitaker said. The room inhaled as one. This wasn't a ticket any longer. This was the slow stripping of a person on public display. "You can't be serious," Dana blurted. "I'm always serious. Bailiff, if Mr. Ortega won't comply, you'll assist him." The bailiff, a barrel of a man with wrestler's shoulders, shifted, unhappy to be the judge's hands. He took a step and his eyes met Sam's, a flicker of apology there. Sam didn't move. He put his thumb against the jacket's zipper, touched it once like a rosary bead, then let his hand fall. He looked at the small five-pointed star resting against faded cotton, a star on a sky-blue ribbon that had never looked gaudy to him, but heavy, the only weight that had ever seemed to pull up instead of down. His refusal was quiet. "It was total." "Fine," Whitaker spat, blotches rising on his neck. "Contempt of court. $500. Add it to the docket." His gaze drilled into the single medal that sat proud among the others. He pointed. "Especially that one. The nerve to wear a fake Medal of Honor. Do you have any idea what that stands for?" And the courtroom dissolved. Not for the judge. He was still there, admiring the press in his robe, but for Sam, who heard the rattle of rotor blades and the hammering cough of a machine gun stitched into the seams of another life. The varnish smell of the courtroom vanished, replaced by jungle wet and the copper sting of blood and cordite. He saw not a judge but a boy, PFC Leary, freckles under a smear of mud, the right leg chewed open and eyes round as coins. The sky-blue ribbon was another sky entirely. Vietnam. 1967, just west of Con Thien, the kind of blue boys used to talk about on the ship when the nights were long and the coffee was stale. He felt leery on his back, an anchor he would not put down. He felt the artillery stitching the red earth inches from his elbows, and he ran anyway, lungs on fire, one thought only: keep the kid breathing until the bird comes. The metal wasn't tin. It was the echo of a shout, "I've got him!" And then the jungle was gone. Courtroom 2 folded back around him like someone had turned the world's dimmer up a notch. Only his breath had changed, a shade deeper. Dana watched it all. The ridicule, the unbudging calm, the private weather passing under her client's face and gone. The wrongness of it scraped her insides like sandpaper. On the intake form, the box for military service had been a single word in Sam's handwriting. Yes. No branch, no unit, no brags. Just yes. The humility of it made her eyes burn. "Mr. Ortega," she whispered, leaning toward him as the judge dictated his bile to the court reporter. "Is there anyone I can call? Someone from your unit? A commander?" Sam turned his head. For the first time that morning, his eyes found hers. No fear, just tired. He gave the slightest shake. "Long time ago. Ma'am, there has to be someone." She noticed then a tiny crest pinned where the collar seam had frayed, a dagger set against a parachute canopy, a quiet insignia barely bigger than a thumbnail. "Your Honor," she said, swallowing heat, "I need to step out and pull a file." Whitaker waved her away without looking. "Do what you like." "Your client isn't going anywhere." Dana's heels ticked down the corridor faster than decorum liked. In the alcove outside the clerk's office, she leaned against cool stone and pulled out her phone. There was no file. There was only that little crest and a guess. USMC insignia dagger parachute crest. The results stacked in her palm. Marine Corps Force Recon. She flicked lower. Contact Public Affairs Office. Camp Pendleton. When a corporal answered, he was halfway to board. Public Affairs? Corporal Baines. "My name is Dana Price. I'm a public defender in Redwood County. I have a client. We can't comment on civilian legal matters, ma'am." "I know. I understand." She closed her eyes, reaching for calm. "His name is Samuel Ortega. A judge is holding him in contempt for refusing to remove his jacket. The court is calling his medals fake." "He's wearing a Force Recon crest," she said, the last card in her hand. "Please, his name is Samuel Ortega." Silence bit down on the line. She heard typing, fast and hard, then a breath sucked through teeth. When the corporal spoke again, he'd grown a spine 2 ranks in 10 seconds. "Ma'am, which courtroom?" 2, Redwood County Courthouse. "Do not let him leave. Do not let them move him. We are en route." The line died. Dana stared at her own reflection in the phone screen, heartbeat marking time. We are en route. Hope cracked like daylight through shutters. What began as a phone call ended as a shockwave. Corporal Baines did not respect ladders when the house was on fire. He bounced the call across a base like a stone on water, skipping past majors and staff offices until it landed in a room with a window that looked down on Pendleton's parade deck. Brigadier General Evelyn Hart was on her feet before her aide finished the summary. At 53, she was all straight lines and stored thunder, the kind of officer who never had to raise her voice to still a room. "Hold the line," she told no one and everyone, and was already moving. "Get me a bird to McClellan Palomar," she told her aide, who was lacing boots while running. "Car on the tarmac. Full honors detail, dress blues. I want 2 Marines on the door before the judge remembers how a gavel works." "Ma'am, yes ma'am." "And find everything you can on a Judge Raymond Whitaker. Law school, clerkships, parking tickets. I want it all. Ma'am." "Next, calls to Sacramento," she said, not breaking pace. "Office of the Governor, Judicial Council. Tell them a national asset is being scuffed by a man who polishes his mirror too much." Back in courtroom 2, the air had thickened to the custard texture of self-satisfaction. Whitaker savored the way the room bent around him. Power looks different when you're the only one who can stand up without permission. "Given your refusal to comply," he said, voice warming with his own cadence, "and given your fantasies regarding your decorations, I'm ordering a 72-hour psychiatric evaluation." He let the words sit like a fog. "Bailiff, remand Mr. Ortega to county custody. They'll transfer him to the state hospital." The old man would not only be fined, he would be labeled unwell. A life's honor recast as delusion. Whitaker hefted his gavel, holding it like a man about to cap a bottle. He never brought it down. The doors didn't open so much as decide to be elsewhere. They swung inward with a boom that truncated every breath in the gallery. 2 Marines in dress blues came through first, boots landing in crisp rhythm, faces hard, the crease of their trousers like cut glass. They flanked the doorway and went to parade rest, statues with heartbeats. Whitaker's mouth hung open, gavel hoisted midair like a toy. Then the third entered. Tall, green coat cut with the kind of precision that suggests geometry can, sometimes, be a religion. The chest carried its own small constellation. Silver starbursts on the shoulders. Brigadier General. General Evelyn Hart did not look at the judge. She didn't care enough to. Her eyes swept the room and found the old Marine. She walked down the center aisle. Her heels on tile sounded like a metronome set to authority. She stopped 2 feet from Sam Ortega. For a second, no one in the room existed but the 2 of them. The lines around her mouth softened, the way rock does when water runs over it long enough. Then General Hart snapped to attention. Her right hand went up. The salute cut the air. "Gunnery Sergeant Ortega," she said, voice ringing off the wood. "It's an honor to stand in your presence." Sam's shoulders rose a fraction, an old uniform lifting under a new sky. He returned the salute, slower, the hinge of his elbows stiff, not weak. "What is the meaning of this?" Whitaker managed, the words trying to hide inside each other. "Who are you? This is a court." General Hart lowered her hand only after Sam did. She turned to the bench. The temperature of the room dropped 10 degrees. "The meaning, Your Honor," she said, quiet as an oath, "is that you are in the presence of a Marine whose record could make this building blush." She took a folded paper from the inside of her coat. The paper wasn't a prop. It was a ledger. "You questioned his medals," she said. "Allow me to clarify." She unfolded the sheet. "Gunnery Sergeant Samuel A. Ortega, enlisted United States Marine Corps, 1961. Force reconnaissance. 3 tours in Vietnam. Advisory Detachment, Northern I Corps, operations near Con Thien, Khe San, and the A Shau Valley." A whisper moved through the benches. Those place names had gravity. "Awards and decorations," she went on, each syllable a nail in the bench. "Silver Star, 2 awards. Navy Cross, Bronze Star with V device, 3 awards. Purple Heart, 4 awards. Combat Action Ribbon, Jump Wings, and Scuba Bubble." She paused, looked at the blue ribbon on his jacket. "And this, the Medal of Honor, awarded to then Staff Sergeant Ortega for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty." She read, "On October 12, 1967, near Con Thien, Staff Sergeant Ortega, with complete disregard for his own safety, repeatedly exposed himself to intense enemy fire to evacuate multiple wounded Marines across open terrain. After neutralizing 2 enemy machine gun positions, he carried a severely wounded private to safety under sustained fire, refused medical evacuation, and returned to direct counter-assault until reinforcements secured the position." General. Hart folded the paper with a deliberate grace and looked up, eyes like flint. "This man's coat holds more honor than this courthouse has seen since the day it opened its doors. He is not a defendant. He is a debt, paid by him and owed by the rest of us, and you tried to bounce it." Whitaker had gone from flushed to the color of printer paper. Words came up his throat and died at the teeth. General Hart turned back to Sam. "On behalf of the Marine Corps and a grateful country, Gunny, I apologize for the indignity you faced this morning." Then, to the judge, colder, "As for you, Your Honor, you appear to have a familiarity problem with the people whose sacrifices purchase the calm you craft your opinions in. I've already spoken with Sacramento. The governor's office and the Commission on Judicial Performance will be reviewing today's transcript closely." Silence drained the oxygen. The room was not a courtroom anymore. It was a classroom, and the lesson would be remembered. Sam laid a hand on the general's sleeve, the gesture gentle, the grip a bridge. "Evelyn," he said, and the name told the room more than any CV could. "He made a mistake. A bad one, sure, but he didn't know." He looked up at Whitaker. No sting, no triumph, just that old steady. "The ribbons aren't the point, son. They're reminders. You don't demand respect with a robe. You give it to the person in front of you, general or janitor. That's the whole trick." As he spoke, the courtroom blinked again, just once, into another place, another heat. He was 24, kneeling in elephant grass by a boy in a black pajama uniform barely older than a high school senior. The kid's hands shook. Sam's canteen was a third full. He unscrewed the cap and held it out. The boy drank. It was not weakness. It was the only way to remember you were still human. The fallout moved faster than rumors at a small-town bar. The local reporter filed before lunch. By dinner, a photo, General Hart saluting an old Marine in a battered jacket, ran on national broadcasts. Whitaker was suspended within the week and resigned 3 months later after the commission finished combing through his last decade of demeanor. Sacramento passed a bill the following session, unofficially called Ortega's Law, mandating veteran cultural competence training for all state judicial officers, prosecutors, and public defenders. It wasn't a cure, it was a start. General Hart did more than make phone calls. She made sure Sam's citation for the taillight that had started the small civil war was not only dismissed, but erased with an apology signed by the county council. Sam skipped the ceremony. He did not handle spotlights well. He returned to his little stucco house with the lemon tree out back, fixed the chain on his neighbor's gate when it sagged, and met the other old lions at Manny's Diner on Thursdays for coffee and pancakes the size of hubcaps. A month later, the bell over Manny's door rang and a man in a sport coat that wanted badly to be a robe walked in. Raymond Whitaker looked smaller without the bench and the height that came with it. He saw Sam and approached like a man who had learned recently what it costs to be wrong. "Mr. Ortega," he said, "may I sit?" Sam nudged the opposite side of the booth with 2 fingers. The sunlight through the blinds cut the table into little prison stripes. "I came to apologize," Whitaker said, hands laced so he wouldn't wring them. "What I said, what I assumed. There's no excuse. I was arrogant, I was cruel, and I was wrong." Sam sipped coffee, let the steam roll up under his nose. "I hear you're not on the bench anymore." "No," Whitaker said. Shame put a hitch in the word. "Good," Sam said, gentle as the back end of a summer storm. Whitaker flinched anyway. Sam slid a menu over. "Coffee's good here. It wasn't absolution. It was an invitation. Sometimes those are harder to live up to." Whitaker looked up, and for the first time in his career of looking down, he saw a person who didn't need a robe to be tall. Something unlatched in his face. He nodded. "I'd like that." The world doesn't tilt all at once. It shifts in tiny degrees. Manny's refilled cups. Dana came in 20 minutes later because she always did, grinned at Sam, and took a stool. A young man in work boots recognized the general from television weeks before and paid for Sam's breakfast without saying a word. The bell rang again. Life kept on as lives do. Stories like Samuel Ortega's are not fireworks. They're candles. Steady. Flames you only notice when someone tries to blow them out. If you believe those flames deserve to keep burning, if you believe quiet valor is worth being loud about, like this video, Share it and subscribe to Veteran Valor. There are more stories to tell, and more people who need to hear them.